Okay, everyone, it's 5:30 p.m. I'd like to be in this caucus session of our council. We have 3 items for action this evening under new business, one being an ordinance, 1 resolution, and 1 motion. Although that motion from this meeting, letter C, is going to be moved to our next city meeting next month. Everybody got their letters? Are there any recommended changes or additions to the agenda presented this evening? None. Thank you. I would like to call this February 17, 2016 council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Here.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
And Mr. Tisch?
Here. Thank you. All of you received 1 set of minutes from February 3rd regular council meeting. Are there any revisions to those minutes? If not, they stand approved. On record. Under reading of communications, Mr. Tisch.
I have none this evening.
Mr. Cicero.
None.
Mr. Morvay.
Nice job with the roads, with the big snow we had, so that's all I have.
Mayor.
None.
Under reports of committees, city manager, and department heads, Mr. Morvay.
Just the fire district is continuing to move toward proposals for the new fire station, and once we get those, we'll be issuing contracts and hopefully next year sometime building a new fire station.
Great. Mayor?
I have nothing.
Chief?
From the city manager, just a reminder to council that tomorrow at 4 p.m. we're having a budget meeting here at council chambers. And from the police perspective, reports?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay. Just a few things. Again, Todd, I'll compliment Todd on the job they did. And we appreciate it. Todd is not able to be here tonight, but his report is so far in February they've salted the streets a total of 3 times. They've plowed and salted a total of 6 times. And they've used approximately 500 tons of salt and still have 800 to 900 in reserve. From the police perspective on the snow, we remind everyone that there's no parking on the streets at night, period, whether we have a storm or not. And because there are a lot of parking bans. We had calls come in today that why weren't we on there, but we just don't. We don't have overnight parking regardless. So also, one of our residents received a call. It was an elderly female, and she was told that she won $2 million, and she bought into the conversation. And we talked about this a lot. We've actually put it on our website. We in our elderly program, we try to do our best to make them aware of they are the parade. They're very easy targets. She believed that her husband called us, and the person actually this time went as far as saying that he was going to be at their house tomorrow to deliver the check. And so we sat on it, we watched it, nobody showed up, but again, just a reminder to be cautious. I've said it sitting at this table multiple times that if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not. And also, the parking got that, so that's it. Chris?
Starting to work on all the worksheets that are needed for the gap report. I have to have those to our CPA firm by the end of March, beginning of April, so that she can complete the report due to the state by the end of May. And I've been starting to prep for the meeting tomorrow.
For the month of February, we issued 1 permit, 209 East Main, for a total valuation of $52,224. March 10th is going to be a public hearing scheduled for a proposed digital sign MCC-TC. Anyone's welcome to come. We will start discussing considerations for allowing digital signs in the city at that meeting. Next Wednesday, Sam Katsula has scheduled a meeting about 275 North Broad Street to be and discuss that property lot.
Just a brief report from me tonight. I spoke with the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission, and they have no interest in whatever council wants to do in regards to Timber Run Drive.
Under reports, or under persons desiring additional information from department heads, may I ask that you step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your questions at 3 minutes maximum per person, no more than 30 minutes total. The questions must only pertain to each department head's report this evening.
Question for Christine.
Yep.
Christine, in the last 2 weeks since our last council meeting, have we had any requests for financial information?
No.
I would like to make a comment that Chris alluded to the fact that at 4 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to have a public meeting. Council will be here. We're going to discuss the budget and what services we can continue to render and which ones we can't. I would love, we're thinking of announcing closing a main road so that we can fill this room with people to give us some input. Please tell your neighbors, come on, talk to us. Understand the problem and give us some input.
Under recognition of persons desiring to speak before council, may I ask you step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your comments brief. John and Sean Monroe? Sorry.
That's okay.
Hello, I'm John Monroe. This is Shannon Monroe. We live at 357 Timber Run Drive, and we all know what this is all about. You guys have all the information that Gina did a great job. I think it was like 2 sessions ago, giving all the traffic count and what it does to increase of traffic through our front of our house and the wear and tear on the roads, which is basically what heavy trucks and whatnot. But what we're here is, just saying the safety for our kids. We have a pool in our backyard, which a lot of the kids in the neighborhoods, they don't play in their backyard. It's right behind the woods. I would say 90% of the kids that you see, they're in the front yard, driving their bikes and whatnot. But the reason why we continue to say, we are all for that road, for emergencies purposes only. If I need potato chips and I need to go to Walmart at night, that's not an emergency. And I know that, a couple weeks ago we were talking about, it's almost the same amount of miles to Walmart, to Giant Eagle. It's not to get the moms and dads quicker to the swimming pool faster. It's not to get them to drop their kids off at school. I can't tell you how many times that I back out of my driveway, go forward, look over there, go ahead, hear a beep, and then do I go 23 miles an hour? Damn right. Because just to say, slow down. I always listen to the Bob and Tom show, and they always say speed limits and stop signs and the yellow light, it's a suggestion. I don't know. But that's the truth. Like when you do a ticker to say I'm going to leave from Timber Run to go to Toledo, it'll tell you it's going to take X amount of time. You get there 45 minutes sooner because we always hit cruise control 75 miles an hour on the turnpike. But, it's just a constant of flying down the streets. We all know that I think texting and driving is one of the worst things going on right now. I have a customer that his wife almost got killed, had brain surgery back and forth to Cleveland Clinic. She can't remember things, and that's all you see is people on not only our street, but everywhere on their phone. And when you're driving down the street and you have to use a turn signal to get in your home because you almost get rear-ended and they beep at you, and like, what the heck? So it's the safety not only for us, but my kids. You know, it's something that, you know, that we all are for it for emergencies only, but not to get to Giant Eagle faster or, you know, go to the grocery store faster, because that's the only reason why they're going that way. You know, if it's an emergency, yeah, open it up, or, you know, post a sign that says, you know, emergency only, be ticketed, and we can make a lot of money for the city. But like I was talking with my wife yesterday, I said, I remember they would put a cruiser on Herbert Road, the first entrance on the way down. I forget the street name. And everybody, you would slam on your brakes, because when you come down the hill, yeah, you hit 30, 35 miles an hour, you know that there's a police presence there. But since it was lax, now I catch myself, oh my God, I'm going 30, 35. I don't want to get a ticket. I'll get a warning from Mr. Modick. He's a good kid, good IQ. But, you know, just putting a sign there that says emergency only, it's not going to work. You know, a chain link fence with a padlock that was cut at night didn't work. You know, they had to put mounds of dirt on each side of a gate because they were going around it. So, I mean, we're not being mean people saying, oh, we don't want you, you know, this is not Browns versus Steelers. This is saying, I want safety for my kids, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen very soon that you're going to get a call. You're going to get a call that a kid's going to get hit by a car. They play in those woods. They play over there. I hook my little wagon up to my little riding tractor, and I pull my kids around. And we all go around there, and then we go down with the wagon down that hill. That you get a lot of speed and momentum going down that hill. That's a pretty decent grade going down. And those kids play over there. I know the Griswold families, they're not here. But they let their kids play all in those woods and on those sidewalks. Well, a little kid that sees a ball that goes over, they're going to go, and nobody stops at that stop sign. It's a suggestion. But, you know, we're just here to say, you know, we're not being mean-spirited people. God forbid something happens, that another tornado, hope it doesn't. You know, last time it was a microburst. The time prior was, in actual, I think, a F1 or a small tornado. If Herbert Road gets down, Turner Road gets down, yeah, pop it open, or allow us to go there, allow them to come here. That's no problem, but it's not. It's meant for emergencies only, not to get to Giant Eagle quicker or the swim club. Because I told my wife today, I can't wait until the swim club opens, and it's going to be insane. So we're just here, you know, voicing our opinion on that. We're not being mean. We're just there for our kids.
The only thing I wanted to add was we thought that, you know, a gate with some sort of remote access really doesn't slow people down in an emergency. You know, as a physician, you know, my concern for safety is there, and, you know, we know folks that live on the other side of that, and if there is an emergency and a vehicle needs to get through, you know, something as simple as a remote to open that gate and let them through really wouldn't delay any sort of emergency help that would need to be done. And prior, when the road was just gravel and dirt, and there was a sign that said emergency vehicles only, there was at least 5 or 6 cars a day that would drive over that, and that was not a double-lane regular street that people come flying down and don't stop at that stop sign. I mean, almost every day, one of us that lives in that 6-house area talks about how we almost get rear-ended. You look one way, they blow through the stop sign. And yes, they do this in other parts of the city and everywhere across America, but you know, we're used to seeing a small number of cars, and when we purchased our house, we weren't there, we didn't build it from the beginning, but we were under the impression that this was not going to be connected and wasn't going to be a cut-through street. And essentially, since that was open, that's what it's become. And we have 2 small kids, and we're just concerned about their safety.
And it is only a matter of time that we're going to have a meeting of, you know, that a child gets hurt, that a child gets hit by a car. It's definitely, I hope to God it doesn't. But, like I was telling a couple of people here, my business is in Poland. And when we looked to build, we looked, or to buy, we looked in Poland, we looked in Campbell because of the school districts, and that the safety-ness of the community, that, you know, you're always known, you're in Poland, you got to go 25 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. You're in Campbell, you got to be going 25 miles an hour. You have to do the right thing. It's just a very safe neighborhood. And I think that, like I told my neighbors, I said, guys, don't worry. They are going to do the best thing for us. They're not going to say, oh, we're going to be, what to these other neighborhoods. They're going to do the right thing. They're going to make the right decision, because I'd rather have a couple people inconvenienced taking their kids to school, going to the swim club, going to Giant Eagle, or that wonderful brand new Arby's that they just remodeled. Have them at a little inconvenience, other than we're going to have a meeting and someone's going to be getting killed, or sadly injured. So that's my take. So I know you guys will do the right thing, because you guys probably all have kids. One of your kids up there was my idol growing up, so I don't know. But you guys all have kids probably, and it's a safety of them, and then it trickles down to me. To me and my wife. Like my father-in-law told me, I'll never forget this, and I'll let you guys go. We rented a beach house in Avalon. He told me, he said, now when you ride your little bike, the beach bike, when you're riding down the street like that, John, you go in the back, because if you get hit, you're going to get hit first, and the kids and your wife are going to be fine. So I said, thanks, that he probably doesn't like me that much. but I just hope to God we don't have I just hope to God that we don't have a conversation of some little kid getting injured big time. So I know you guys will do the right thing. Thank you. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
The effective kid. Thank you.
Yeah, similar to farming laws.
I'm Dave Patch. I live at 25 Alabaster Avenue, so I'm neighbors of them. I'm here to talk about Timber Run, as everybody. I'm sorry the room is not full this week. I guess everybody got their opinions out last week, perhaps. But first, I'd like to thank Joseph LaCicero for your comments in the Vindicator this week. They were clear, they were measured, and they were fair. And I think they accurately represented the arguments that have been made here for the last several months. And you corrected some inaccuracies that have been made in a couple of editorials. I don't believe anybody has been up here in front of this room and said we want a locked gate that prevented passage into Westbury. That's never been the conversation. In fact, the several arguments that you made and were made in editorials that public safety should be the number one concern, that the decision for council should be very easy. It should be based on public safety. And none of us that have been up here for the last 8 or 9 months have argued anything other than public safety. We've actually said we want public safety. However, right now what we're seeing, I think, is the vote of convenience versus safety. That there is an argument that hasn't quite been said the right way. So for Westbury, the question is 2 ways. Public safety, so access, unfettered access to emergency personnel, or the convenience of having a second entry and exit from the neighborhood. So for those of us who live on the Timber Run side, or the city side, the road being open right now changes our safety. The fact that it's opened every day has changed our safety. The number of cars, we've been here for months talking about, we fear that the number of cars would go up. It has. We fear that the speed of cars that went through our neighborhood would increase. It has. Now, although you don't have data from that, I actually have a radar gun because my kids play baseball, and I'll sit on my back deck and occasionally look at cars go by, and I will tell you, 25 is a suggestion. There are cars that will do 45 miles an hour down the road, and I can tell you who they are and who they won't. We don't need to have that argument here. There are some people in our neighborhood that are driving too fast, and there are some people in Westbury who are driving too fast as well. So there is too many people going fast in the neighborhood. So, however, our safety is diminished right now because of the convenience to Westbury, or the convenience of Westbury through our neighborhood. So our safety is diminished because of that convenient opening of the road. It has nothing to do with their safety right now. So I think we have been here trying to address that question for a while. Gino did a great job. I think Gino's provided information about gates that can be controlled by approach. He's provided, we have gates that can open by remote control. And so the fire chief was up here last meeting, said he'd be happy if he had unfettered access. He would not be impeded. Those gates do not impede access. Those gates do not impair public safety. They actually allow public safety because they will allow emergency access in an unblocked manner. Okay, so if we were to erect that gate, we'll put that gate back up, it would restore the safety to our side of the road, our side of the argument as well, and also maintain safety in Westbury. All right, so we make it both ways there. All right. So I think the people who were here 2 weeks ago that were opposed to closing the road, for the most part, said that, one, they needed emergency access. No, we've never argued against that. I don't think that's ever been an argument. But two, they were arguing for convenience. So then you have to make a decision. Really? Do we sacrifice safety for convenience? Or do we sacrifice convenience for safety? That is the decision. Period. In a nutshell. Right there. So if you vote, or if you decide to keep that road open as it is right now, you are sacrificing the safety of the city of Canfield for the convenience of Westbury in the township. That's your decision. So if you make that decision, please understand that nobody has actually tried to satisfy our fears about public safety to our children, to our families, to our cars, and to our property. There's been no discussion of how to improve that for us in here by anyone that talked on any side of it except for us. And that was to put up this gate that you can remotely control. It maintains public safety. It does not cost public safety. So, you choose. So a remote control gate does not diminish safety to either side of the argument. An open road does diminish safety. So it's your decision. Thank you.
Craig McKeon.
Good evening, I'm Craig McKeon. I reside at 220 Glenview. In the February 4th section of the town crier, there was a letter which I had put into the town crier, and which I had to pay for, by the way, and I'd like to read that into the minutes. I quote, "Recently, Canfield voters approved charter amendments to place term limits on mayor, council members, and boards and commission members. Full disclosure, I sponsored these changes. All these charter amendments were vigorously opposed by the administration, apparently out of touch with the voters. Now, members of the administration have been blaming the lack of candidates and no opposition in elections on term limits. True or not? At the main library, I reviewed the microfilms showing the ballots from 1993. Let me summarize the data. For council persons, 1993, no opposition. 2001, no opposition. 2003, no opposition. 2005, no opposition. 2007, no opposition. 2009, no opposition. In regard to the mayor, 1997, no opposition. 2009, no opposition. All these were before term limits. The facts show the argument is false. Why the argument in the first place? In my opinion, it's a matter of power and control. There are persons who feel they should get and keep persons in office who are their friends, neighbors, and belong to the same organizations and clubs they do. These people envision themselves as best qualified to determine who is in office and keep them in office for long periods. Then no opposition is okay. Obviously, the voters disagree. Now these people strike out at term limits and that they have less control of persons in office. There are many qualified people in Canfield, but we lack people to get involved. Why? In my opinion, the real cause of lack of candidates, not only in Canfield, is that people are turned off, disgusted with politics. 20% of the people do not trust the government, 10% approve of Congress. Politicians are viewed as corrupt. They enrich themselves and do favors for people who contribute to keeping them in office. Congress has retirement benefits and medical care of which we can only dream. If there ever was a case for term limits, this is it. It's difficult to get 50% of the people to vote. But there's another side of the coin for people who refuse to vote or participate. If I may quote Plato, the Greek philosopher, the price of apathy toward public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. My own politically incorrect interpretation is, if you don't participate, you deserve what you get. You have no grounds to complain. Notes the Canfield administration, lack of participation is an effect of voter apathy. It is not caused by term limits. Face the real issue instead of biased, unfounded personal political beliefs. Frank McKenna, end of quote. Next slide. Let's talk city finances. It appears the city is facing some serious financial issues in the immediate future at the current spending rate. The attempt to increase city income tax in August of 2015 turned out to be a fiasco. It did not enhance the reputation of the city administration, in my opinion. It was amateurish and not well publicized. And it gave the appearance of ramming through an issue when the turnout is expected to be light. It may have prejudiced any future revenue increases and cast a light of suspicion on City Council. Your continued reluctance to routinely report financial information that Council does not bode well in asking for more revenue. This could very well be an issue in any future revenue endeavor. What are you hiding? I've tried time and again to have financial data reported at Council. Now, the city financial shortfall has several alternatives. Number one, increased income by taxes and or levies and fees. Number two, generate income by new businesses and or taxpayers. Possible in the long term, not a short-term solution. Borrow money, if possible, but sooner or later the piper has got to be paid. Refinance debt. Sell assets. Reduce expenditures via services and or personnel. Raid other funds. Only delays the inevitable and probably illegal. Let me be on record as not supporting or recommending any of the above. There are options as I see them. The ball is in the administration's court. Now is the time to develop a plan on how to address the situation. Let me first opine that the typical resident is unaware or apathetic to the city's finances. A plan is needed. Every voter needs to be reached by a personal and printed matter. As council persons, you're personally walking the entire city to explain the situation, and your plan is a good place to start. Contact and speak to organizations and clubs in the city. Include the benefits of living in Canfield and what it takes to maintain them. We're at a crossroads. It's a big job. I have done it 5 times by myself and probably have to do it again. Just as an aside item, perhaps we should change our councilpersons from at-large to precincts. That way residents would have someone who they feel better represents them in council. Moving council meeting to 7 o'clock may allow more people to attend. Apathy is the enemy. Time is of the essence. Let me add, last November, the residents of Salem approved a 0.5% increase in income tax to 1.5% for a 5-year period, with the increase to be used in a specified manner. Maybe you ought to see how they did it. And lastly, if your plan fails, there should be a backup plan that can be implemented quickly. It's going to be an uphill battle. In regard to budgeting, the city does not finalize its budget until the end of March. That is when the state requires it must be done. That is a mandatory deadline. It does not mean it cannot be done sooner. In other words, 25% of the year is gone before the city elects to make its budget final. To me, that is mismanagement. If this were a company, it would all be fired. The budget should be finalized before the end of the previous year. Recently, council was asked if they could support the 4th of July parade. No answer could be given because the budget is not finalized. I call upon you to act more responsibly. The city's finances are in bad enough shape without us not knowing financially where we're going until the end of March. And one last thing. I'm keeping it short. But anyway, I would like to ask, what is the city or the city attorney's position in reviewing a citizens charter amendment prior to during the charter amendment, or proposed charter amendment, for any legal constrictions that would prevent it from going on the ballot. Would appreciate some input from council, attorney, or whoever in a timely manner. Thank you for your time. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Barry Tenier? I got Thanks.
I'll pass.
Oh, okay. Under old business. Mayor?
Old business. We've been talking about Timber Run. I can't remember how long. Probably before I became mayor. That being the case, folks, you're coming to us. We're listening to you. We're trying to take a bigger view of this thing. We're going to make a decision. This council has put a lot of effort and, maybe contrary to what Frank says, we may even have a little bit of talent on this. We're studying this thing from all different avenues, all different angles. We hear loud and clear, safety. We hear it. I believe that we're getting closer and closer to an answer that I don't think the township is going to like. I don't think our citizens of Canfield City will like. We're probably going to come up with a pretty good plan if nobody likes what we finally determine. We have a couple of issues here in safety. I cannot emphasize enough how much this council has considered safety. We need to do two things, and then we're going to come to a conclusion. One of those things is we're going to need a professional study of the lay of the land that Timber Run lies on. There's a rise and there is limited visibility there. We're going to request an engineering firm to come in and analyze that visibility situation. If they advise us that there is something unsafe, and I'm inclined to, as a layperson, I was a professional engineer for 40 years, but I'm not a professional engineer now. If they advise us that there is safety to be considered because of the terrain, but when that car going 37.5 miles an hour reaches the military crest of that hill and then starts down the other side, probably at 35 to 37 miles an hour, he's going to T-bone a car or find that little kid coming out of a driveway on a scooter, a bike, a trike, chasing a basketball. There's going to be something serious going on. We must slow that traffic down. We must, in my opinion. But we're going to get a professional opinion as to what the visibility limitation is on that particular piece of real estate. Now, if that means going to a four-way stop down at Timber Run in Alabaster to make people stop to start up again to go over that hill, if we have to put a permanent speedometer readout up there, and with the flashing lights when you go 31, you're 20% over the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is easy to do. It's very easy to do. We are going to do everything that we possibly can. And I can tell you for a fact, we're going to restrict big trucks, 3 axles and above, of using that piece of real estate. And I'll give you equal time, Marie. But I don't want your cement trucks and your cement block trucks and your roofing trucks coming off of Herbert going through our city to a new building over in the township. They're going to come down Gibson and they're going to be in my court, standing right there. I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think you and I are going to argue over that. Councilman Cicero and I are going to come to one of your meetings and request that your zoning people, when they issue a building permit over there, tell the contractor, don't come in off of Herbert Road. And don't go out that way either. We're going to try to restrict traffic in a logical way. Most important, we're going to try to slow down traffic in front of your house. At 25, I think the road is safe. Unfortunately, we're dealing with people. That's the weak link here. I hear people say that police presence seems to have a tremendous impact. I would love to see you folks here tomorrow at 4 o'clock when we talk about potential cuts that we're going to make. I would hope that you had voted for that 0.5% income tax thing. Could have hired more police. Anybody planning to come to our budget meeting tomorrow? We hear you. Come help us. Because we sit here trying to get the revenue to help you. For 1 minute, do not think that we do not appreciate the safety factor that is taking place on Timber Run. As your neighbor, I want a brick wall across that road. As the mayor, I can't allow myself the luxury of thinking like that. But I do have to think in how are we going to enforce whatever we come up with and make it practical. I can tell you for a fact, I know the profile of the speeders. Watch when this hits the paper tomorrow. She's a female. She has a telephone growing out of her left ear. And she's got 2 kids standing in the back of her car. And she's going about 35 miles an hour. You might ask yourself, how do you know she's going 35 miles an hour? Councilman LaCicero and our conscience here, Frank, and myself, we're engineers. Car traveling 60 miles an hour goes 88 feet per second. So 30 miles an hour, it's 44 feet per second. I personally have had training in how to estimate speed. And I'll tell you, they're going 35 miles an hour and better. And I think I've heard the neighbors say that, and we heard an expert with a radar gun. The answer here lies in training our people, township people and city people. And I'm going to tell you, one of the finest lessons I learned as an auxiliary policeman, David Blystone. David Blystone was our former chief. He was referred to as an academic cop because he taught down at Youngstown. He was a professor and our chief. I had a detail one day at the school, and I was asking a lady to not park on my crosswalk at the school. Big Denali. And she looked at me and she said, "You expect my kid to walk, he's a 5th grader, to walk across this street in this cold weather?" It happened to be the year I was standing out there for 5 days and I got pneumonia, but her 5th grader couldn't do that. Well, the 3rd time that I asked her to move, I said, "Move this vehicle now." I was about ready to take out my baton and tap her hood violently. I chose not to do that. So when I came back to the police station, I said to Dave, "Yeah, I know you're going to get a call." And I told him the story. He says, "I bet it's the lady that just called, Vern." And I said, I was polite. And those were our instructions, and they continue to be our instructions. And David Blystone told me the secret to being a police chief. He said, "Vern, we're trying to regulate a population that doesn't want to be regulated. So we can talk, and we can talk about physical barriers to slow these people down. And I've been using the term since I've been in the mayor's seat. We have to educate our people. We have to educate them. If we have the budget, we're going to strongly enforce whatever we create down there. If we don't have the budget, we're going to have to count on you throwing a brick at that car. Don't do that." Folks, we're going to make a decision. We're going to get a professional opinion. We're going to get a professional opinion from engineers. We're going to get a legal opinion if we can create a 4-way stop. We're going to get a legal opinion as to can we put permanent speedometer readings up there. And if we gather that data, and that data will tell us an average speed going through there, if that speed comes up, excessive. What is excessive? Let's say it averages 33 miles an hour. That means somebody's going 40 and somebody's going 27. We might revert back to that gate. And I know people don't want that. You want it. Very few other people want that gate. I don't want it there. I would rather that the population regulate itself. That's it. You're going to get a decision on this, folks.
Under new business, as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move the council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Morvay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
As per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move the council dispense with the requirement of two reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize adoption of the same upon its first reading.
Second.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
Mr. President, I have an ordinance declaring surplus property and authorizing its disposal, and I move for passage.
Second.
Second, Mr. Tisch. Public comments? Questions? Yes.
I am presuming that this weapon, as it indicates in here for our collective bargaining agreement, is weapon to be disposed of by being sold to the retiring officer.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So,
It should be noted that that is a provision in our collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Tisch. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
And the number is?
2016-3.
Thank you. Item B, as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move the council dispense with the requirement of full reading of the proposed resolution and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second? Mr. Morvay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
As per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move the council dispense with the requirement of two readings of the proposed ordinance and authorize adoption of the same upon its first reading. Do I have a second? Second. Mayor? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
Mr. President, I have a resolution requesting advances in the collection of real estate taxes, and I move for passage.
Second.
Second, Mayor. Discussion? Public comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. LaCicero?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Yes.
And the number is?
2016-2.
I think that brings us to, no, we're that's the next to Councilman's comments. Mr. Tisch?
Yes. Heard comments this evening with regard to Timber Run, and concern for safety, and as much as I share all of those concerns, I get back to an issue that started this subdivision. And that issue was the planning process of the City of Canfield calls for a preliminary plan to be developed by the developer and approved by the City of Canfield's Planning Commission. That was done in 1990. That plan called for some roadway to go north into proposed subdivision. Now, at that time, the subdivision north of the Stonebridge subdivision was platted or was being worked on. It was left to the developer at that time, ASM Development, to make the decision as to where that roadway was going to go. It was a requirement subdivision approved by the City of Canfield Planning Commission, and the developer started the provisions, or the development of the subdivision in phases. It was always their requirement that they would have to extend that roadway in some fashion in a northerly direction to ensure the logical flow of traffic between whatever was developed north and that subdivision. Good public policy planning, looking at the long-term perspective of the community. Community not being just the City of Canfield, but the overall community. That's the reason that was done. As the project went into phases, it was then approved, and I think it was in phase 6, in which it was required to go in at that location. The fact that property owners did not get notice of that, I can't understand why, but obviously they did not. Now, as the mayor alluded to, safety, as far as those streets are concerned, we're going to take some action or look at action that's going to resolve them. But I, for one, as a supporter of good public policy, cannot do anything other than vote for having the street remain open.
Well, may I? The only word of those three things that I fully understand is policy. Because I think good is a matter of what people define it to be, right? And public has to do with where you draw the boundaries. Now, if you call the public the City of Canfield, I can't see how this is good public policy. That's just me. I heard what you said, and it's done. It sounds like it's a done deal, and that's why I really want to move this forward. Rather than have people with high expectations and who know the answer, I'd like to push for that answer. All right? Good public policy doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry about that. I think that this idea of hurting the emergency response was never really an issue. I think that was something that when you sort through it, you find out that there really is no jeopardy placed on Westbury. So it would be bad public policy to have that the case, but it's not the case. I do think it boils down to, and wherever it goes, I think it does boil down to finding out what is the right question for us to answer. And I said, and I thought about this, well, I think the question in front of us is, does the convenience of Westbury traveling south, east, and west trump the safety of the people on Timber Run? That's the question in front of us. And I think those are all estimates, too. We don't think that there is great jeopardy to the children in Timber Run. We had someone stand up and say there weren't any children that played in Timber Run. You know, what I hear is people coming up with the answer they want and then search for facts to support it. So let me get my thoughts back, because I'm getting a little emotional here. I think what you said, Mayor, I think is the only way we can move forward, and that is do everything we can to make Timber Run as safe as we possibly can, but it's given the circumstances. And I don't think there's anybody up here, as Chuck said, that would disagree with that. We'll do everything we can to keep it safe. That's all I have to say about that.
My comments are
elected to Frank, and we listen to Frank every other week, and I'm sitting here, and Frank, I just realized we want the same things. We want the same things. Yeah, you've gone about it a roundabout, a different way of getting the same result, but we would love to have involvement, and I think that's what you were trying to do with term limits, and your point's well taken that in prior elections there was no and hardly any interest at all. And so I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, well, you know, we want the same thing. We would love to have people knocking at the door to be on this council. We would love to have people believe that there was transparency, which there is, because the information Frank talks about, if is requested from the city manager, is available at any time. It's an open book here. We hide nothing. And to make the insinuation that maybe we're some kind of doing crooked business or something to hide is ridiculous. It's simply ridiculous. There's nobody up here that I know that's in it for themselves. We're here because we love the city and we're giving back our time. And I'm truly sorry that people really don't care. And we care when it affects you, right? Because we had the most crowded place ever the last month, and because it affected somebody. And the mayor has alluded to some of the cuts that are going to be made, and that's going to affect you somehow, somewhere down the line, because there are cuts that are going to have to be made. And so maybe then we'll get some more involvement and people wanting to step up and give back to their community. But Frank, I think we want the same thing. You and I are on the same page. It's just, I think somehow we need to get together and figure that out so we're not constantly writing articles about each other in the paper. And I'd like to do that. I mean, I'd like to see more people interested, more attendance, more concern for their city. That's my comments. Thanks, John. Mayor?
I would like to undo all of the good that John just said. He extended an olive branch to you, Frank. I would like to comment on your illogical logic. You cited those various elections where people were running unopposed. Spike McLaughlin, who would run against him? He was a pillar of the community. Lee, what was the principal's name? Lee Fry. I served as his bailiff. Who was going to run against him? Bill Kay. Who would have run against him? Bill was forced out because of term limits. Look what you got. Broken down industrial engineer who talks too much. So your logic of there was nobody going to run anyway, you don't run against a good guy who's doing an outstanding job. You let him continue to serve till he drops, and you bury him and you find somebody else who's good. So your logic is flawed. No. Listen to what John said. John extended an olive branch like I have several times. Come sit in one of these chairs. Help us run it, Frank. You're of the opinion that you're helping us from there? Keep that opinion. It too is flawed. Back to Timber Run for a second. Folks, I was very, very serious. We're in a fight to keep Canfield. We're going to talk about it very specifically tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I would like for you to be as interested in that because it affects you. It affects you. Bring your neighbors. Let's pack this room tomorrow so you can give us your thinking. Because in one breath we're saying, well, when there's a police car there, everybody goes 24, 25, 26. Police presence. Again, David Blystone, an outstanding educator. We're trying to regulate a population that doesn't want to be regulated, folks, and there is the danger on Timber Run. That is the danger. Talk to your neighbors. Bring them in here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Come yourselves. Fight for the economics of this situation so that we can help you. This guy is spread thin with cops. Spread thin. We have 6 volunteers, auxiliary, that work for nothing. So he's trying his darndest to provide a service. That auxiliary cop can take a cruiser and he can put it out there, and you almost can't tell when you look inside that car if he's an auxiliary, an old man like myself, or a highly trained, highly educated policeman. We can slow that traffic down, but we're going to be making cuts. And we're going to be making cuts because we're running out of money. And trust me, I've sat in 3 exit audits. We get excellent ratings. I personally look at how much money everybody in this city is making, and I think they're all underpaid because nobody's getting rich. Nobody is getting rich. So help us. Help us help you. Last thing I want to say, we hear you folks. You've heard me say it over and over. We're going to probably make a decision that you're not going to be 100% happy with. We make the big bucks because we make the hard decisions. That's all I have.
Thank you. I just, some brief comments myself. Again, I go last and kind of everybody says what I kind of wanted to say. So, but in any case, Mr. Padgett, we've spoke numerous times for a long period of time on this issue prior to even this stuff happening now, and I completely understand where you're coming from. I do. The safety of kids specifically, me having 2 youngsters myself, I would do anything I can to make sure there's the safety of those kids. With that being said, with the decision we're going to make up here also, that is also in my head, knowing that that's the decision that we have to make based upon, not you as citizens, and I know that you guys live there and everything, and it is for you guys, but it's for your kids, and I know that. And I think that there are different things, I think that Mayor alluded to, that there are several things I think we can do to make it safer, and I think we will do just that, to make those roads safe for you, for your kids, for everybody there, just like we do on all the other roads in the city, in the township, to make sure that this is an area where everybody feels safe, and we don't want anybody to feel that they're not safe in their own home, let alone in their own yard. So I think we will do everything we can to make sure that everybody's safe. And I think that's the decision we're going to make, and I think that's where we need to go and the direction we need to go. So I do thank you. And I know we've talked several times, but I thank you for coming up, and what you said today was, I think, very important. So with that, this meeting's dismissed. Thank you.